Hey, welcome back. So today I'm going to be taking another detour on my journey to read a book from every country in the world with Clarice Lispector from Brazil. I'm finding it very important now that I'm approaching 90 countries, over halfway through the countries as I'm counting them, to visit, to go further into the authors that have most stood out to me, most intrigued me, or most resonated with me as I go. I don't want to wait until the end of the project to decide who those are. I want to start now. I want to start going, trying to read deeply on through those authors that intrigue me, as well as continuing to read wide and work through the countries. So Clarice Lispector is the next one that I want to cover today. And I did read The Hour of the Star by her almost a year ago now, so I will post the link in the description to that video if you're interested. And it is very funny for me to look back, to watch that video again now and see how, now after reading two more of Clarice Lispector's books, my opinion has shifted. And my thoughts have really shifted on her. So before I start, I just want to say that the way I thought I was going to do this was I picked up 4 more of her books besides Hour of the Star that span her career, right? And I decided I'm going to go chronologically. So I started with Near to the Wild Heart, which really had it was a really strange book, again, very intriguing, just like Hour of the Star, and makes it clear that her entire career, Clarice Lispector was really in her own world and doing her own thing, and you cannot compare her to any other author. And that's inspiring. That was already really inspiring to me, to see that at 23 years of age, she was following that vision. She allowed herself the freedom to write without ever being concerned about whether she was creating capital L literature or not. I find that very inspiring. But at the end of it, I also felt like I didn't really have a lot to say about the book. So I thought maybe I will cover all 4 of these books in one video. But then, next chronologically, which I read over the past 2 to 3 days, The Passion According to G.H. This is in a totally different world. This elevated, for me, Clarice Lispector into the personal pantheon of my favorite authors and favorite books. This was just out of it was so far beyond and so far above what I had read in The Hour of the Star and the Near to the Wild Heart, while still retaining the same personality. I would certainly, of those 3, recommend this one as the first book to read by Clarice Lispector. But who knows, maybe having those others as comparison might have also contributed something to what I got out of this book, and maybe I don't know what the best introduction to Clarice Lispector's world is, because her work really is a world. It's not a genre, it's not whatever, it's a world. And so, and this leads me to something else that I want to say about Clarice Lispector, because anyone who's getting into her, myself included, and a lot of people I have read, or like the introductions to these books and introductions to any of her books, other people have talked about it. There's always this sort of like this mysticism created around Clarice Lispector, and this sort of like people, I feel like, are just projecting so many myths and so many things onto her as a person that is just doing a disservice to her work, in my mind. I really dislike this sort of mythologizing of Clarice herself. And I know everything about her lends to this sort of thinking, especially in our sensationalist culture, and we love a controversial figure or an interesting artist or creator. But the reality is, when I read Clarice Lispector, I feel like I relate to it. Like I feel understood. I feel a close a weird closeness. Like I don't read her feeling like I'm reading something mystical or extraterrestrial. It leads me kind of through strange ways, certainly through strange ways and unexpected ways yeah, just feeling like this is something all of us could do. Clarice Lispector. The magic of Clarice Lispector is that she gives you permission as an artist, as an author, or a writer, or a musician, or whatever you want to pursue, painting, whatever it is. She gives you permission to simply do it, and not be concerned with I'm trying to do this or trying to do like. And this book even deals with the theme of humanity and how trying to be human, trying to be more human is a strange concept because it is what we already are. In fact, it is actually finding the inhuman within us, but not inhuman in this, I don't know, I can't really talk about the things in this book directly out of context, so this entire video is going to be talking around what's in this book. But to give you, if you haven't heard of it and just want like a brief description of what happens, that won't even really tell you much about this book, but it might intrigue you. So I'm going to give a short description. So I feel I've kind of said my piece on how for me, Clarice Lispector, it's not the mythical nature of her that inspires me, but rather how she could be any of us, and she gives us all permission to explore art and life, explore life through art in our own way, and be free, and even reflect on that very freedom, and which is the true freedom. So it's and all this probably sounds very pretentious, but I mean, to me, it's not. It's something that. Which was my first impression of Clarice Lispector too. When I talk about that in Hour of the Star, but it's really like the least pretentious writing I could even imagine, which is as I've actually explored it, which is like, and I don't really know how to explain it because it really just feels like she's just writing. She is just writing, and I love that. There's something poetic about that too. Yeah, the plot description. A sculptress named G.H. lives on the top floor in a penthouse of a 15-story building in the middle of Rio de Janeiro, looking out over the city. She has a maid that's either left or quit. I can't remember. It's not even really that important. But she goes into this room that the maid had been living in to find it empty except for 3 suitcases with her initials G.H. on them, a wardrobe, an old mattress, and 3 rather creepy drawings on the wall that the absent maid has drawn. These drawings she describes as seeming naked to her, even though they are basically just sketched outlines of a man, a woman, and a dog. This is when she opens the wardrobe, and all of this, the room is just described as being like filled with light. With this, it's almost like it captures this horror in broad daylight. The way that GH is feeling and reflecting on all this. She opens the wardrobe then to find a cockroach. The cockroach starts to come out of the wardrobe. She slams it. The cockroach is now still alive and dying, twitching kind of halfway inside and halfway out of the wardrobe, and she spends the rest of the book sitting on the bed, meditating upon this cockroach until the powerful conclusion, which if it hasn't been spoiled for you, I won't spoil it. So that is the basic description of all of what happens in this nearly 200-page book, because it is all, the events happen in this kind of slow motion. It is almost this extended, similar to, the way psychedelic trips might be described. Things happen, like the amount of thoughts that she's thinking and philosophies that GH is thinking could not possibly fit in the short amount of time that this book is describing. And like the time the time from when the cockroach starts moving to when she slams the wardrobe is like 2 chapters of philosophical thoughts and like visions of eternity and you know, the world, almost like future and past civilizations and apocalyptic stuff. It's really wild. It's the metaphysical reflections. Again, talking about anything in this book out of context feels absolutely inane. You only get it by reading it, and so just read it. I don't know what else to say. If it intrigues you, it is the first book that I would recommend anyone to read by Clarice Lispector to really give them an idea of what she's about. I feel like this one not only does everything I read in the other 2 books that I read by her, but transcends them and elevates them, both in the figurative, metaphorical language of the book and in my own ability to resonate with it. You know, I resonated with this book to such an extent that when I put it down, the first thing I said out loud, my wife was here in the room, I just said, that's one of the best books I've ever read. Nothing else to say. Nothing else to say about it. So I'm also going to be reading Agua Viva and A Breath of Life. Going chronologically, I'll start with Agua Viva and finish with A Breath of Life, which was posthumously published. But I think I'm going to give it some time because I really want The Passion According to GH to sink in. I mean, like I said, that was just such an experience that I don't want to like. I want to give it time. I think that's totally understandable. I don't need to explain why more than that. But yeah, really the takeaways here for me is reading this almost derailed my entire Reading the World project because I was just thinking it's like I'm really starting to get an idea of what it is about literature that inspires me, and I think that's going to come out more in the authors that I'm choosing to cover additional books by them. And yes, I'm focusing on specific authors going forward, and they're ones that are intentionally and sometimes unintentionally chosen. And it's not just about what resonates with me, it's also about what really intrigues me, because what really intrigues you in an author, even if the first thing you read by them might not be like the thing that resonates with you, what intrigues you will probably lead to something else in their work that does really resonate with you. That's kind of what I'm learning. And so I have narrowed it to 15 authors that I'm very sure of that, and maybe I'll add a few more here and there that I'm going to be pursuing more. And the other takeaway is that, again, just to reiterate, that Clarice Lispector is so important to me and resonates with me as a writer. Again, not because of anything about her as a person in particular, although I suppose you could argue that this is something about her personality. But again, it's just that freedom to write. That I'm somebody who has been thinking about writing in my life far more than actually just writing. And I think what I think she's showing me, as well as a few other authors, is that my problem isn't so much that my problem is simply that it's thinking, it's not doing, it's not feeling, and so and I no longer have to be afraid to just pursue. And that's what it is. There's fear there, and it's that fear that the creator, that a person has, of really embracing what this life is. I mean, in the Passion of GH, that's near to the Wild Heart. Clarice Lispector discusses life. It connects with what I read from Alberto Cairo, from Fernando Pessoa. His heteronym Alberto Cairo, who writes these poems about spiritual materialism, that this world is all there is. This world is God. This world is hell. well, that's out of order. In the book, it goes hell and then God. But it's and it's a passion. And it's again that religions are a metaphor for what we experience in a life that really has no answers. The number between 1 and 2, she describes it as in one part. This book touches on also something that I've seen kind of emerge on YouTube and on the internet and it might just be sort of a passing trend, but I think it's touching at something deeper, which is this obsession that a lot of the internet now is having with liminal spaces. I forget what there was one that's, was it the back rooms, things like that. This entire book takes place in a sort of liminal space, a horror in broad daylight, in a room that is oddly shaped, and these strange drawings on the wall. This sense of unreality is reality, which expresses a lot of, I think, not only in, of course, all this is very heady stuff, but when you actually start, for me, it's not pretentious and it's not an intellectualizing. This is stuff that I think we actually feel as a result of a digital society, a more digital society, but it's obviously not just that, because this was written far before the internet, and so I think there's something deeper to it than just that it's reflecting something about society, and that I think I'm resonating with it beyond just that sort of, I don't know, however I want to compare it to what we're going through in modern society. And I think that's the same thing with Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, where there was so much in Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain that I felt I could relate to our modern problems, and that it almost seems like we're living in this state of feeling like there is an oncoming disaster, and we don't know exactly what it's going to be. And that's the same thing they were feeling in Europe prior to World War I, and which is reflected in The Magic Mountain. And but there's got to be something more to it than just this sort of indulgence in experience, or this sort of dopamine addicted society. I'm not even sure there's any understanding about how dopamine actually works when people say stuff like that. But so there's something more to it, and I think it's better expressed by how Claudia says to Hans something about experience is your seeking of experience makes you the enemy of humankind. And what is experience except us? We often define it by saying we're trying to be more human. And I think that's similar to what Clarice Lispector means in The Passion of GH, about how trying to be human is ridiculous. We are human. Trying to make life more life is ridiculous. It is actually that which is inhuman, which is the nothingness, that's where we're trying to find God, right? And that's, I think, where the liminal spaces somehow come in. I obviously haven't figured all this out, and this is kind of like, Clarice Lispector herself described Near to the Wild Heart, when she was published when she was 23 years old, as she feared it was word vomit. That's how I feel every time I'm doing these videos. It's word vomit. But again, I feel strongly that instead of mythologizing this woman, I feel more that she is an inspiration, somebody who is simply giving me permission and encouragement, beyond the grave, by reading her works, to not apologize for simply, being who I am and expressing what it is I'm experiencing in this life, through the video, through I can do it through writing, through painting, whatever. I don't need to apologize for it. I don't need to worry about whether it's good, whether it's great literature, whatever. So that is the most valuable thing I've taken away from The Passion of GH. And I don't want to make this just about art, because there is more meaning to life. Life gives art its meaning, I think, not the other way around. I don't think that art is exactly what gives meaning to life, because that is transvaluation. Transvaluation, is that how we say it? It is you're undercutting a whole bunch of values in between there and a whole bunch of things. The idea of art alone giving meaning to life, to me, is a bit preposterous, but maybe you might disagree. And maybe it's just semantics in the end, really. Again, word vomit. So the thing also I think we can learn from Clarice in her writing is that this word vomit can actually be harnessed and be improved over time. So that is really, in essence, what I'm trying to do with a lot of these videos, and not just read a book from every country. I want to explore these authors that I really like more deeply as I'm continuing to read more of the world. Maybe we'll get a few more added to the list, but I don't think it will be too many more. I mean, 15 authors out of 90 is a manageable amount, right? So yeah, and I've already covered 2 of them besides Clarice, which is Magda Sabo and Tove Jansson. So I guess I'm starting with the women, but I do think that is also something that I'm somewhat conscious of as I'm reading the world, because if I actually look at my list of all the books that I plan to read, and yes, it is planned out what I'm planning to read for all the countries, about 3/4 of them are men. And so the way it could definitely be worse, but I also feel it is important. You're missing a whole half of what is different about the human experience if you're not including women. So it's not some kind of like, I want to be social justice or anything like that. What it's about to me is again, I don't want to be blind to a whole side of the human condition, right? And unfortunately, and some men are really good at writing female characters, others are not. But I still want more of that perspective. And again, it's not just through literature and books that you can gain these perspectives, but it's important to me for this project to do the best I can while also not doing the disservice of reading books that I'm simply not interested, just to be more inclusive. So that is my take on that. That kind of got off on a tangent there. It's really not that important. What's important is everything I think I said before that. So I hope you enjoyed the video and my scattered thoughts on the Passion According to GH. We will definitely be doing another Clarice Lispector video or 2, depending how Agua Viva and A Breath of Life go. I'll either cover them together or I don't know. I feel like I should say something about Near to the Wild Heart. I feel I already said what I had to say. It's similar in that the story is very condensed. There's not actually a lot of events that happen, and most of the book is philosophical musings, but it's very clear that it's from a much younger woman's mind, but just as metaphysical and interesting. Just that it wasn't quite as coherent to me. I didn't quite resonate with it as much, and it could be too because I've never lived the life of a young woman, and so maybe somebody else will find this to be their great Clarice Lispector novel, the way I think of The Passion According to GH. I'm not here to evangelize what I think are the greatest books in the world to you. Everyone's going to have their own pantheon of literary favorites that inspire you and whatever, as I think I already said that, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. Good time to end the video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.